Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1476 AN. Today's date is January 19th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Economic Agenda to Bring the Economy Down Has Begun. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, as we've been studying this economy, we realize that there are many things at play at this time. Now, when we look at the economy, we need to look at the world events. We need to understand what is going on. And it's not just one thing. And we've been following the economy here in the United States and around the globe. And we've been seeing that bubbles have been inflated like there's no tomorrow. And we're seeing that they're starting to pop in certain areas where like the housing bubble, prices are starting to come down. The mortgage applications are drying up. People are sitting on the sidelines. Investments from foreign investors have been drying up because everything's being redirected to the One Belt, One Road. And we're starting to see that all these things are starting to take a toll on the real economy. The stock market is not the real economy. The stock market is a manipulated piece, a manipulated tool that the central bankers use to convince people the economy is doing well. Because if the Swiss bank, who has been funding the stock market, and if the Fed pulled their free money out of the system and let the stock market do what it's supposed to do in an open free market, it would crash today because they're not buying the stocks anymore. So this is one gigantic manipulation game. And it was put into place to buy the central bankers time. Now, there are different central banks that report up to the main central bank, and certain central banks are in line with the cabal, like here in the United States. And what is happening now is the central bank of all central banks, the Rothschilds, they don't care about the Fed. They know the Fed is going down. They know the dollar is dying. And they're prepared and ready to set up a brand new one, which they've been doing over time. And it takes time to do this. It doesn't happen in a day. And I know a lot of people are like, well, when are they going to do this already? It's already being done under your nose, except that we've been following it. And they've been replicating everything out in the East. And it looks like they pretty much have everything there, everything ready to go. And what they're doing at this point is they are waiting for the event that will allow them to push everything from here to there. Now, everyone thinks, well, China created the petro-yuan, and I know the financial pundits are out there, and they're saying, well, this is going to take some time. They have a very small market, and countries are going to have to get on board. No, that's not how the central bankers work. Think about the petrodollar. I mean, did they start the petrodollar back in 1920 and had the petrodollar throughout that time, and finally people started to use the petrodollar? Or did they start the petrodollar? I mean, they had plans ahead of time. Everything was prepped for it. But did they go live with the petrodollar in 1971 when we came off the gold standard? That is what happened, and everyone started to use it. There was no event. There was nothing there. They just went ahead and they did it. Today, it's a little different. Today, the petrodollar, most of the countries use it. So what do they need to do? All they need is to have some type of an event that will distract everyone for a year or 2 years, and then turn the switch on and say, okay, the dollar's dead. Now we're on the petro-yuan. That's all they have to do. Or have something happen to the financial system of the United States, of the Fed. That could be with a cyber attack. That could be with anything. And then all of a sudden, they can switch it. And all the central banks around the world, all they're going to do is dump the dollar and take on the petro-yuan. They don't need time. Time is meaningless. They can do it with a snap of a finger. They don't have to wait for China to build anything up. It doesn't need to be done. Everything is already in place. And what we're seeing is that the economy is prepared and ready to be brought down. Basically, what is happening is Trump has been in office for a year now. He has his tax bill that he pushed through. He has everything that he's been doing, and the people are convinced, because the economists came out and the corporate media came out, said this is Trump's economy now. And it's been over a year, and eventually that's what happens. It's now his economy. He owns it. And they were waiting for this moment. And I'm saying in the next couple of months, probably February, March, going into April, we're going to start to see the corporate media come out and tell you how the economy is not doing so well, how it's starting to turn down a little bit. A lot of financial pundits out there, like Bank of America, they're talking about how the market is so overvalued that they're waiting for the market to come down. And again, the market is manipulated. It's not the real economy. Think about it. Prior to Trump, the unemployment numbers were manipulated. The GDP numbers were manipulated. Everything was manipulated, and then Trump came into office. The manipulation continued. It didn't stop. Unemployment didn't just miraculously rebuild itself and everything is fine and they did all the recalculations and everything's perfect. It's exactly the same. Actually, more people have lost their jobs since that point because this economy is fake. It's not real. It looks like it's doing well. It also looked like it was doing very, very well in the year of 2008, even though we were stuck in this illusion that the subprime securities were perfect, AAA. Hey, wait, the United States is AAA rated by S&P, Moody's, Fitch, but China looked at it and said, "Ooh, they got a lot of debt. We don't trust them anymore. Confidence is declining, and we're going to lower their credit rating." This is in preparation to be moved over to China, to the new central bank system. And we see right now that this is the illusion. Actually, S&P wanted to downgrade the United States. And actually, the government at that time stopped them. Because they knew if they did that, their plan would not work. They thought they were going to be in power for a lot longer. The cabal intertwined with the central bank. But they weren't. And we're starting to see things slip around the world. We talked about Canada, the housing market there in Vancouver. We talked about it in Toronto. And we talked about Australia. We talked about the UK, how their housing market is declining. We also see out in the UK retail sales, they have declined sharply in December, which is strange because December is usually a very good month because it's the holiday season. And retail sales fell by 1.5% in December. And this is the latest sign that consumers were feeling the strain of falling real pay. The same thing here in the United States. Wages are declining. People are losing their jobs in retail. People are losing their jobs. The corporate illusion that everything is fine where the corporations are doing well, the stocks are continually moving up, but their sales, their revenue, they're just not there. All they're doing is buying back their stocks to push the market up and up and up. We see the UMich confidence. Well, it has reversed itself now, and now it is declining sharply. Because what has happened was the euphoria is over. They're prepared and ready to shift everything. And we're going to see a lot of information come out, and they're going to start talking about how the economy is starting to slip a little bit. And this is the beginning of it all. Because as we know, illusions don't last forever. I mean, eventually what happens, and time is meaningless, they always fall apart. Look at history. History is a great piece of evidence that shows us that every time the market hits an all-time high and housing prices go up, everyone feels good, even though it's fake. Think about 2008. Everyone was feeling fantastic. Look how much money I made in my house. I can take out an equity line of credit. This is why they came out with that report saying there's about $3-something trillion in home equity, because they want people to take that money, spend it in retail, spend it in the economy, and actually take out another loan. Because how does the central banks work? They work on people taking out more and more debt. This is what they like. And once again, we're at that same point once again. We're at that point of euphoria where everything feels fantastic. And this is when they do the old switcheroo. This is when they start to bring everything down. Now they have someone to blame. And it will be attached most likely to another country or group to even push this agenda further. Because the central bank, once again, they're doing everything in their best interest, not for the interest of the people. Because if it was truly for the interest of the people, would they put people into debt? Would they put countries into debt? Think about that for a second. They wouldn't do that. Not if it's for we the people. They would never put countries, people into debt and make it impossible for them to pay this debt off. They would issue the currency without interest. So, all the currency that was issued, if it was paid all back, it would pay off all that currency that was issued. There'd be no interest. There's no debt. People are not enslaved. But we can see, just by the central bank issuing the currency with debt attached, their agenda is very, very different. Because how else can you control countries? By putting them into debt. That's the best way. They've done it throughout history. And now it is time to remove the central bank, the private central bank. And it's time to have the people issue their own currency with nothing attached to it. And I believe this is what cryptocurrencies can do if the central banks don't have control over them. If the people have control over this currency, the currency would be issued without any type of interest, and we wouldn't have to worry about a central bank. We wouldn't have to worry about banks creating currency out of thin air. We wouldn't have to worry about fractional reserve banking. We wouldn't have to worry about any of this stuff. And the governments around the world couldn't just borrow and borrow and borrow and spend and borrow, because there'd be checks and balances. So they would have to do things like they've done before with the currency attached to gold, where gold was the checks and balances. They just couldn't go and spend as much as they wanted, create these programs because they wanted to create them, pay lobbyists off, pay other groups off, pay senators off. All that would disappear. I mean, yes, you would still have some here and there, but it wouldn't be the way it is today, because the central bank is more than happy to create currency with the push of a button, because it's unlimited. It's created out of thin air. So this is the time, and we're going to be heading into this year of 2018, and we're going to see the corporate media start to push the idea that the currency, the economy is not doing well. And it is a race to see who has control over the economy and who will bring it down and who will be blamed. And this is where we are headed right now. So get prepared, get ready, because it's going to be a very bumpy ride. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.